Have you ever had an issue with figuring out whomst amongst your murder friends is responsible for this dead corpse trend? Do you struggle with trusting what people are saying when the bodies hit the floor? Guess what? I can't help if that's a real life thing, but if sussing out is the source of your strife in game time, this might help you do a thing more than flailing. It's just the basics, though. As a professional distributor of knives, I got bored and thought, why not do something with all of my mafia knowledge? What is even the point of luring people to poison with tragedies for if I don't encourage other avenues of suffering? So, please, consider the following. The number one thing I cannot stress enough comes from writing advice. Kill your darlings. Are you forming an attachment to a particularly cute individual? Vote 'em. Vote 'em twice. Heck, if you have an independent vigilante kill, secure that lover for the afterlife. Fall into yandarity, proof their alignment with the sincere intimacy of a lasting embrace. The second reason for why this is so effective is because people try to be appealing. It could be seduction, is what I'm saying. If your town, and gosh, there's just one little meow meow throwing off all your doubts, and you're like, can we just get to the end safely together? No! Bad! That person is probably a villain. And if they weren't, at least you weren't caught in 4K being vulnerable. Alright, who here is shouting about the third party and how, woe of woes, we cannot underestimate that most nefarious of shadows? I mean, just think about how terrible it would be if we were, to get distracted by hunting for scum and completely allow the third party to achieve their unreliably against town win conditions. Something to think about. Except, the very existence of a third party is to add a little confusion, the petite pizzazz that sometimes does result in death. But those casualties are kind of understandable. At least in games where you're not aware of their purposes. Because hey, who could have seen that coming? If you're on the list of a 3P, that's just kind of flattering, am I right? Something I'd like to point out from my illustrious career of manifest, manipulate, manslaughter, is that the edge of aggression can be utilized, but it's knife fighting thin, so be prepared for consequences of yours, theirs, and random actions. I cannot tell you how many times I've witnessed an alliance breakdown as third party and scum fought to be recognized by town for the most innocent crown. The hamage, bluster, and fake outrage. It's all about the acting and who chooses to believe. So tell your story. Make it interesting, and you might survive another day. This next one depends on tone, because if your murder crows are just fucking around and having a big ol' silly time, it's not as important. But if you're in the Mafia Olympics, representing sovereign and country, well, just take a quick pulse check on the variables. Approximately, where are we in game time? Who are people voting for, and what's their track record? What is the logic behind their decisions? Are they being helpful and smart with what information is being shared, or hiding a knife for bigger moves. This last one demands a certain level of tacit intuition. Practiced veterans have honed that danger sense to the level of surviving harem politics. It actually can be pretty helpful to do a review like this, because later down the line, when the shark jumps off the rails and you no longer know day from night in the star-wheeling sky of a galaxy set on fire, at least you can go back and laugh about how your observations were wildly influenced by the hypothesis you wanted. Motivated reasoning. More likely than you think. One final word. There's something called metagaming, and that's just using information outside of the rules to affect what's happening. For example, if you know that your friend cannot lie without vomiting, and apply this to great effect, then I can only say you're really going knives out. Some people find it distasteful, but I think there are sometimes unconscious things that influence perception, and in moderation, such bids can make for interesting tricks. So long as you're not using your financial/networking powers to have friends commit perjury in court, to win a case of intellectual ownership of a company, and other comparable transgressions of that level, good for you. Anyway, I'm sure this is a bit alienating with jargon, but this is how my words work, and voice is such a particular print that I can only say, such is the life. Celery, celery.